Okay, we're going to look at the 4 types of lines. So if you'll take a piece of paper and just fold it into 4s. The first line we're going to look at is the vertical line. The vertical line, the slope is going to be undefined. A vertical line's equation is just going to be x equals, and it's just going to be a constant number. You're only going to have x in a number, okay? A way to remember that is VUX. So you have a vertical line. It has an undefined slope. And the equation is x equals. Okay, so if you can remember VUX. Okay, just kind of like vertical, V, undefined, x equals. So if you can remember that, every time that you see a problem and it's only got an x in it, then it's going to be vertical. So if you see a problem that maybe might look like x equals 3, that means when you graph that, you're going to go to your x-axis. Remember, your x-axis is the horizontal axis. You're going to find the number 3. And you're going to draw a vertical line that goes right through that point 3. Okay, so anytime you have just an x equals, it's a vertical line. Okay, and when you think about that, when we've talked about this before, you can't walk that line. So this means that it would be undefined, not possible to walk that line. Okay, then the other line, which is the horizontal line, this has a slope of 0. The equation this time is just going to have a y with it and a number. You're not going to have 2 letters with either of these. So these would be kind of like special cases. If you only have one variable, it's either going to be horizontal or vertical. So when you look at this one, we'll say this equation is y equals 3. You're going to find the 3 on the y-axis, just like we found the 3 on the x-axis. You're going to draw a horizontal line that goes through the 3. So this would be a horizontal line that would pass through 3. Okay, now to remember that one would be HOI. That would be a little acronym. So H stands for horizontal. It has a 0 slope. And it is y equals an equation. So that would be HOI. So if you only have one variable, it's either going to be horizontal or vertical. So just looking at one variable. Okay, so we're going to look at the worksheet and we're going to find the ones that only have just an x or just a y. Okay, and remember when we're thinking about the slope of that, a person can walk a flat surface because it has no slope or no slant. So that's why it has a 0 constant slope. So remember that the person can't walk the vertical line. So that's why the slope is undefined. Okay, so when you're drawing these two lines on your homework assignment, remember that you're only looking for an X and you're only looking for a Y. So if it's just an X, you find that number on the X and you draw a vertical line through it. If it's just a Y, you find that number on the Y and draw a horizontal line through. So that's pretty easy. So we're going to take a look at the homework part. So you can see that these have Y's and X's on this whole entire page. So we're going to the next page. Ta-da! These are the only two that just have a Y and just have an X. So those are going to be the two that are going to be very, very easy. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can try those two, and then come back and we'll see if you got them right. So we're going to start on number 4 on the y-axis. So we are at 4 on the y-axis, and I know that you drew a horizontal line through that point. Okay, number 16, we're going to find -7 on the x-axis. We're going to put a point there. And in order to get a line through that point, you're going to do a vertical line that goes straight through -7 on the x. Now, the whole entire sheet after 15 and 16 have 2 letters in them. So we're going to go back to our chart and take a look at those 2 cases. So first of all, looking at positive slope lines, you know that those need to be increasing. So you need to make sure the line is going up from left to right. So as this person walks the line, he is going up the hill. So we're going up from left to right. So the slope tells you how to count. So if it is a positive slope, you always go up and right. So when you're looking at that type of question, you have to have a point before you start counting. So if you remember, when it is in y equals mx plus b, in this case, you're going to have both a y and an x. It's not like the other 2 cases. You have both a y and an x. And notice that the m is going to need to be positive. So the line would be trending uphill. So the first thing you have to do when you graph a positive slope line is you have to find out what the b is. The b is the y-intercept. So before you start counting with the slope, you have to be on the line. So you have to be on the line before you start counting. The slope is going to tell you how to count, which is the m. The b is going to tell you where to start from. You always start here. So once you put that point down, you are ready to start counting. So we always do this step first. So I'm going to number that. You want to do B first. You want to plot that. When you plot that, you want to put it on the y-axis. Then the second step is you're going to count. And you're going to count up and right. Just remember, positive up and right. You can always go backwards once you've started your counting with up and right. So let's look at page 1 of the homework, and I'm going to highlight all the ones that have positive slopes. So notice this would be a 1/3. It would have a positive slope. You would have a 6. That is a positive slope. They're trying to trick you here because in this case, they have those reversed. So it should say the X needs to be in front and then you minus the 7. So you're just going to turn those around and notice that your slope is positive. Okay, so let's try those first and then we'll look at the other type. So what we said a while ago, so if you know how to graph this, you can go ahead and pause because we have worked on this before. If you just need a refresher, maybe you want to do the first one with me and try the other two we highlighted. So the very first thing you have to do is you have to plot the y-intercept. So I'm going to put him in green. So I'm going to go up to the y-axis and I'm going to put a point. You always put the y-intercept on the y-axis. Then we're going to use the slope. The slope is telling you how to count. So we're going to go up 1 and right 3. So from this point, we're going to go up 1 and right 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to go up 1 and right 1, 2, 3. So notice that those points are going up the hill when you draw the line. So I'm going to draw the line. You might want to get about 3 points and then put your arrows on the line. Now, if you ever need to go backwards, the opposite of up is down. The opposite of right is left. So you can go back and you can go down 1 and left 1, 2, 3. Down 1, left 1, 2, 3. So you can always go backwards once you've got your line to help you if you get confused on how to count. So looking at number 4, go ahead and try to plot your y-intercept. Okay, so make sure you put that on the y. Now we're looking at the slope. So we notice the number 6. We have to make that a fraction. So I'm going to put a 1 under it. So I'm going to go up 6 and I'm going to go right 1. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and right 1. Well, this time we're going to be going off the paper if we continue that. So now we're going to go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and left 1. And then always double check that your line is going up here because it has a positive slope. So remember what we said earlier. The line should be going up on the right end if it is positive. Okay. Looking at number 5, we're going to start this time at -7. Now the slope is a 4. We're going to put a 1 under it to make it a fraction. So I'm going to go up 4 units and right 1 unit. So we'll go up 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. And I'm going to continue 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. And you can continue as much as you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. I would suggest to put, at least 3 points so it'll help you draw your line. Okay, now the other ones are not in that form. You can see this one here has a negative slope. So when I turn him around, because you always want to put the slope in front because he's important, he tells you how to go and how to move. So the slope needs to be in front. Okay. Okay. So let's go back and add with our counting that you could also go, instead of up, you could go down. Instead of right, you could go left. And the reason that is that's two negative moves. And a negative over a negative would give you a positive. So those lines should be going upward. Okay. Okay, let's look at our last case of slopes, and then we will go over how to solve again. Okay, so negative slope line should be going downward. So it is trending down. So this person is going downhill. Yee. So he's going down. And when you look at that, you're going to be counting different. So instead, when you're counting for your slope this time, you're going to be going down and then right. So when you count, you want the line to go down. So you're going to go down and then right. So always think down first because it's going down. Then you can always do opposite of that. The opposite of down is up, and the opposite of right would be left. I would probably write this on my paper when I do a quiz, just because it'll help you remember. So it would be good if you could kind of draw the line and remind yourself that since this is going up, it's positive, it's up and right. Since this is going down and negative, it's down and right. And then you're always able to write the opposite. Okay, so with this type of line, the slope this time is going to be negative. So instead of having a positive number in front, you're going to have a negative number. You are still going to start on the y-intercept. You still start on the y-intercept. So whatever number that is, you're going to put a 0b. It's going to be right on the y. Okay, so always start here. Always plot your y-intercept first. After you plot your y-intercept, then you need to count from that point. So you're either going to count down and right, or opposite up and left. So notice there's one negative move here, and there's one negative move here. So that would mean a negative over a positive is a negative, and a positive over a negative is a negative. Okay, so let's go back. If you think you know how to graph those, go ahead and we will try number 1, because it is a negative slope. So I'm going to highlight the negatives, and then I'd like for you to pause the video and see if you can do those 3. Okay. Okay, as you're coming back, I want you to check 2 things. Check and make sure that your lines are going down, because it should be going down. Make sure all 3 of those are going down, and make sure they're touching the Y at this point. Okay, so check that for me. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this, and what I was talking about is your y-intercept needs to be on that point. Make sure on this one, your y-intercept is at -3. Make sure on the last one I ask you to do that your y-intercept is on -1. Okay, now we're going to count. So from that point, I'm going to write this beside the problem, and I'm going to put my little arrow. I was supposed to go down 7 and write 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The opposite of down will be up 7. The opposite of right will be left. So now I'm going to go up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these points should line up in a line. If they don't, you counted wrong. You went the wrong direction. And remember what we said, this part should be going down on the right. Okay, looking at number 3. Sometimes we forget that when we have a negative here, that's really a -1 because he's hiding. He's imaginary. Okay, so there's really a -1 there. And remember, we have to make the slope a fraction, so we put a 1 under it. So from this point, I'm going to go down 1 and right 1. Down 1, right 1. Down 1, right 1. Or I can go up 1, left 1. Just make sure they line up in a line. And make sure when you drew this, your line is going down, okay? Because that's where you mess up sometimes. Make sure this part is heading downward. Okay, I hope you got those right. And with this one, you're going to go down 2 and right 5. And then up 2 and left 5. And remember that your line should be going downhill. So make sure when you draw that it's going downward. Okay. Now, what we talked about on this sheet a while ago, when we did that, if you'll just flip it over to the back, we're going to have one more little lesson. And I want to remind you of what we have discussed earlier in this unit about solving for y, okay? So whenever you graph these, you want to have your letters in a certain order. So remember, when you isolate, you're going to put the y equals mx plus b. Now, if you just have one variable, it's pretty easy. But when you have 2 variables and you have to move some things over, you know, that gets kind of tricky. You always want to put the m first. So you always want your slope to be first. And you always want your y-intercept to be last. Okay, so we want it to be in this form. If you remember, this form is called slope, intercept, form. And the reason it's called slope intercept form is because you're able to get the slope, and that intercept is your y-intercept. Okay, so let's try to remember how to put it into this form. Okay, but this is the form that we're wanting to put each of the questions in, where we're able to graph that. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on now. So when you look at number 7 in your homework, it is not in y equals mx plus b. This one, if you draw that little dotted line right here, you notice that your x and your y are on the same side. When you go back to the definition, the only thing that needs to be on the left side is just the y. Everything else needs to be on the opposite side. Okay, so when I look at the left side here, I notice that I have the x and the y. Y is okay to be on this side because we want him to be on that side. X is the one that we're going to have to pick up and move over to the opposite side. So in order to move that, I'm going to need to get rid of it. So if I have a 3x and I want to get it to go away, I'm going to subtract 3x because 3 minus 3 would cancel out. So if I do that to one side, remember I do that to the other side. So I'm going to bring down y equals, and I'm going to have negative 3x minus 5. So now I have the problem in slope-intercept form. Okay, so when we graph this, remember that you want to plot the y-intercept first. So go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and put the slope over here. You want to put a 1 under the slope. The slope is going to help you count. Remember, the line should be going down. Those are the things you want to think about as you graph it. So we're going to go to -5, and we're going to put a point. Then we're going to count down 3, right 1. Then I'm going to go up 3, left 1. And when I draw the line, notice it is going downhill. Okay. Okay, number 8. I'm going to write this over where you can see. Okay, we notice again that we have a y here, but this time he's not happy. He's a negative y. Okay, so first of all, we've got to move this x because he don't belong on the side with him. He's not supposed to be there. He snuck out. He's not supposed to be over here. We've got to get him back home. So if I'm trying to get him back over here, I'm going to have to get rid of him. So I'm going to subtract him. Remember, you always do the opposite sign of the x. So if that was a positive, you do a negative. And I do that same thing to the right side. Then he's gone. Then I have a negative y. Remember, the slope goes first, and then I put the 0. Now, we can't have him negative because slope-intercept form is just a positive y. So if you recall, that coefficient that is behind that negative is a 1. So that means I'm going to have to divide by -1 to make it positive. So if I divide that by a negative, I'm having to do the others as well. You want to divide the slope and the y-intercept. So now we're going to get a positive y, a positive x, and then you're going to get -0. Now, you do not have to put the 0 here because 0 is understood to be there if you saw y equals x. The reason 0 is understood to be there is because you can add or subtract 0 to x and it still be x. So if you do not see a y-intercept, but you see both letters, so see I have both letters, but I have no y-intercept, you're going to start at 0, okay? It's understood to be 0. The slope, if you see an x, is understood to be 1. So since we need a fraction, it's 1/1. So I'm going to go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. And then that line should be going upward. Okay, I hope you got those right. Happy late birthday. Hope you had a good birthday. Hope you got everything you wanted for your birthday. You'll have to tell me about it. Okay, going to the last page. Okay, they're getting a little bit more difficult because now we're going to put together everything that I have shown. Okay, so the very first thing that you want to do is you want to get these as we finished up into slope-intercept form. So notice that your x's and y's are on the same side. So the first thing is to get this into slope-intercept form. Now, if you think you know how to do that, I'm going to let you pause the video, but I'm going to highlight what you need to move first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with the others. So you want to move your X. You want to move your X. You want to move your X. Okay, so what I'd like you to do for these 6 questions is just move your X. Okay, when you move your X, drop him in front, change his sign. So you're moving the X, putting him in front, changing his sign. So remember, we're going to change this sign to get him to cancel out. So we're subtracting him. So then the X minus X goes away. We're going to have 5y equals. Move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. So remember, it's going to be negative X, and then you have a plus 10. So we're going to move the X, put him in front, change his sign. So here, we're going to have a negative Y equals, move the X, put him in front, change his sign. Put him in front, change his sign. So he's positive, now he's negative, and the minus 3 stays the same. The only thing you're changing the sign of is the X, okay? Move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. So we would have negative 2y equals negative 3x, leave that plus 6. Move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. So we would have 5y equals negative 4x plus 30. Move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. So we have negative 4y equals negative x. And I'm going to leave 0 off this time. Move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. So I have a 10y equals 12x, and you leave the minus 10. Okay, the last step is divide by the number in front of the y. Divide by the number in front of the y. Divide by the number in front of the y. Divide by the number in front of the y. So what are we going to divide by? We're going to divide by the number in front of the y. Divide by the number in front of the y. So we're dividing by the number in front of the y, dividing by the number in front of the y. So if you'll go through and highlight every coefficient you see in front of your y. Okay, after you have done that, we are now going to divide by that number. So I'm dividing everything by 5. This one, the slope, and the y-intercept. Okay, do that next. I'm dividing by -1 this time. I'm dividing it to the slope and to the y-intercept. Okay, pause the video. Okay, as you return, I hope you divided by -2 to everything. Divide by 5 to everything. And then divide by -4 to everything. The last one, you're dividing by 10 to everything. Okay, so you move the X, drop him in front, change his sign. Divide by the number in front of the Y. Divide by the number in front of the Y. Okay, what you do next is you reduce the fractions. So the 5/5 is going to go to 1. So that first thing should always go to 1. Be very, very careful here because you mess up sometimes. That's a -1/5x plus 2. Okay, so this now is my slope intercept. In this one, the -1s cancel out. I get a -2 divided by -1 is +2. -3 divided by -1 is +3. So now I have it in slope-intercept form. Okay, pause and see if you can reduce the other 4. Okay, so as you return, the negative over a negative should have went to a +3/2 x minus 3. Check that one. Okay, the 5s are canceling out. So I'm going to get y equals, that's going to stay -4/5x, and you're going to have +6. And then this one would go to y equals, hope you got this one right. Remember, there's a 1 in front. That's going to be a +1/4 x. Because, you know, they get a little bit more difficult as you go through. The 10s are going to cancel. So you're going to have y equals. You got to reduce here. So both of those are even numbers. So they're divisible by 2. So that's going to go to 6/5x minus 1. I bet you got all those right. You already finished with the sheet, right? Okay, so next, as we finish up, if you'll pause and try to graph all the lines now, and then come back and we're going to check them together. Okay, so hopefully you put the point on 2. And then we're going to make sure the line's going down because of the negative slope. So it'll be down 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to go up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, number 10, we're going to start with 3 on the y-axis. So the slope is 2/1. So this line's going to be going up. So we're going to go up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1. And make sure, again, that that end part is going in the correct direction. Make sure that you put this number on the y. Okay, so we got 4 left. So we're going to start at -3. And then this line has a positive slope, so it should be going upward. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Okay, so hopefully you got that one right. Remember, check that end point and check the y-intercept. Okay, now we're going to start at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure that's on the y-axis. This line should be headed down. Okay, so we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can go off the page a little bit if you have to, like I did. Okay, so that one's going down as well. Okay, now remember what we discussed a little bit ago. If you don't have a y-intercept, it's understood to be the origin, which is 0. So this line is going to go upward because of the positive slope, and it's going to go through 0, 0. So I'm going to go up 1, right 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should go through the origin and it should go upward. Okay. And again, you can always count backwards if you want. Just make sure it's all on the line. Okay. The last one is going to be -1 on the y-axis. This line should be going upward, just like that one. But we have a slope this time of 6/5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this line is going upward with a positive slope. Okay, remember the lines that only have X and Y, those are going to be the one that is either going to be horizontal or vertical. So remember, if it's X, find that point on the X axis. If it's Y, find that point on the Y axis. Now you can write the Y equals 4 in slope-intercept form, and the slope would be 0 right there. And that's what we talked about a while ago. A flat line there has a 0 slope. Okay, hope this helps you. Let me know. I'll see you soon.